Hey everybody, Glenn here with another episode of pre-grading. Today I'm going to tackle probably the hardest one, especially the hardest one I think to capture on video. And we're going to talk about surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I kind of use the microscope here. What's maybe hard to see here is I have this LED light that I use for looking at these things, and I'll also use the handy dandy loop if I need to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through how I go about doing it, but then I'm also going to show you some defects that I've seen over my grading experience here that will definitely cause you to lose some points, because it's a little bit tricky the way they've got their scoring set up to determine how much impact something's going to have on something. So we're going to start off just by taking a look at the two cards we're grading here. So number one, we got the good old Dante Lavelli out here. See if I can get that to focus in. There we go. So you can see, basically what I'll do is I'll get it under the light, and you kind of see how it's reflecting off of there. And the first thing I would notice is in that bottom left corner, right down here, there's definitely something going on there. I don't know if they would dock me on corners for that or surface. I'm going to guess surface. But then if I look at the rest of the card, I don't really see anything major on the surface. I don't see any dings, dents, anything like that. Actually, I think for an older card, this looks pretty clean with the exception of that down there. So what I'm going to try to do here is, we tried this on one of my other videos and it worked pretty well, actually. Hope if I put that the right way. So I don't know if we can get that in there or not, but you can. Oh, there we go. So you kind of see there's actually a little bit of a indentation there. So I guess based on their criteria, we're going to end up calling that probably a crease, unfortunately, because I don't know how else to really quantify that. But I would say that it's probably far enough off the border that would be considered a surface defect as opposed to a corner defect. So that's what we've got on the front. And then on the back, we take a look at this. You can see there's not a whole lot going on. We got a little bit of roughness going on up here, but I think that's probably going to end up being under edges. But as far as surface is concerned, I don't really see anything. A little bit of discoloration around the edges, we got this little print spot down here. But nothing overly critical on the back here as far as I see. Like I said, there's definitely maybe a little bit of wax staining going on up here. Now that I'm looking at that a little bit more, you can kind of see the discoloration in there, a little bit of wax staining potentially on the back. But that's what I really see on this card as far as surface is concerned. On the Tom Brady, when I took a look at this one, the more I look at this card, the more I think I probably shouldn't send it in to get graded, but I'm going to do it just for sake of experimentation. Now, on these shiny chrome cards, people take a lot of shots at CSG for how strict they are on grading surface, and I have another video I'm going to be posting about that specific topic. But on this particular card, I don't really see anything on the front that gives me a whole lot of concern. It's a little bit hard to tell on these mosaics because there's just so much going on. As far as telling what's part of the design and what's not. The thing that caught me on this one is when I flip it over, this is a common problem on newer cards. If I can get that light to shine just right. Let's see if I can get it to show up here. There you see it. It's right up here. If you look right there, you can kind of see there's some print lines. See if I can bring that in a little. There you go. See a little bit better there. Some print lines going right across his face, going all the way across the back of that card. And I honestly have no idea how much they're going to dock the card for that, considering it's on the back, but I definitely think that it will take a hit because of that. So that being said, I honestly probably shouldn't submit this. I wouldn't normally submit this, but I'm going to just, to finish this experiment out and kind of show you guys what I'm thinking here. So that's where we ended up with the Tom Brady. So if we go over and take a look real quick at the scoring criteria, the way I broke this down was they've got quite a few. I mean, flawless obviously at 10. See here they refer a lot to gloss print spots, minor print spots. They mention spec. They talk about gloss a lot. Subtle focus imperfections would come into play here. Wax staining comes into play quite a bit. And then you get down, it's not until you get down to a 4.5 actually that you would get into scuffing, scratches, or creasing, which unfortunately I think that's what we got in that Dante Lavelli. You see it kind of goes up, you get more creases, more scuffing, and then once you get down in the 2.5 range, you're talking about, writing on it, staple holes, missing surface, and then even down here in 1, you've got major surface damage with severe creasing or missing a small portion of the cardstock altogether. So lots of different qualifiers here. But unfortunately, in this case, on the Tom Brady, I went ahead and said that on the front, let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger here so you guys can see what I was doing. I didn't really see anything major on the front at all. So I would go ahead and say that there was a few extremely minor spots, only detectable in magnification. I did look at it under a loop, which I'm not going to do here just for sake of argument. But really what matters is that the back side of it, I'm going to go ahead and say that there's minor print spots. That's what I'm going to call those lines because there's really nothing else within the criteria here that I think fits what that is. I call it a print line, but it doesn't really refer to print lines. It says print spots. So I'm going to say a small amount and go with that and see what happens. So I'm going to say that it's going to be an 8.5. I think we'll both, everybody watching this video might learn a little bit from this because we'll find out just how heavily CSG takes those lines like that on the back of a card into consideration. I know it's from the manufacturing of the card. It's not really something that necessarily was anything that was done to it, but again, they're grading. I think CSG is good at actually grading the card no matter what the cause for the defect is, which I think is good. So we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and say it's an 8.5, but I wouldn't be overly surprised if it actually came back worse than that. And then on the second card, the Dante Lavelli, unfortunately, we've got that little bit of a crease on there, which again, I probably would not send this card in had I done this grading before the video, but I guess that's kind of the fun of doing it during the video. So you can see here on the front, I had to qualify that as a crease, what I showed you under the loop there. I can't think of any other way to really describe that. It doesn't say anything about impressions or things of that nature, so I'm going to have to qualify it as a crease. Now maybe I'll get proven wrong, and this won't drop it down to a 4 or 5 range, but I'm thinking that's what's going to happen. And then on the back, like I showed you, there's a little bit of wax staining going on the back side, but other than that, nothing super major, which would have only brought it down to a 7.5, but because of that crease, I think we're going to end up with a 4.5 on the back. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and go with as far as a surface grade is concerned on the Dante Lavelli. So overall, these two cards are not looking fantastic from a grading perspective. I was hoping, obviously, that it would end up a little bit better than that. Because right now, as it stands with this Dante Lavelli, I'm saying it's going to get a 4.5 on surface and a 4.5 on corners, which pretty much locks me into that 4.5 grade. Now, I still have, edges to do, and I still obviously got a good grade on centering. But unfortunately, that's not going to matter a whole lot. If I get 2 4.5s, I'm going to get stuck with the 4.5. I don't even have a chance at a 5 at that point. So this is looking like it's going to end up being a 4.5, unless I find something horrific on the edges, which I could say just, at initial glance, I'm not going to. And then on the Tom Brady, I was hoping to not send this in for less than a 9, but I'm really worried about those lines on the back of it here. So we might end up getting, if we get an 8.5 on it, but we get a 9 and everything else, it might still work it up to a 9, which even so, probably for this card, I wouldn't send it in for that. But like I said, I'm going to follow through on this. I already pulled a DPJ. I'm not going to pull another card. So we'll go ahead and send those both in. We still got to do the edges on them. But one other thing I wanted to show everybody while I was doing this was kind of some examples of some of the types of defects you will see. Let me get that zoom back in there. So one thing I wanted to show you is a lot of times you'll hear something called print spots. And you see it a lot on these Chrome cards. Now, if you look up here on this Myles Garrett, right by the rookie card symbol up here, you can see you got this little dimple going on. That is a common problem on Chrome cards. Something that is usually pretty noticeable if you're paying any lick of attention. You can kind of see over here that there's another little small one going on right there, another little small one going on up there. And I think a lot of the times you can see there's even a couple more going on right down here. You know, people kind of overlook those or think they're minor and they should be overlooked and still get a 10. Wow, that one really shows up bad. You know, once you, oh, that's actually not a print spot there. That's something else going on. So, you know, you take a microfiber cloth to it. You can even see this one here's got some scratches on the surface. Let me get that to refocus. Yeah, you can see there's scratches there right by his helmet. Kind of right underneath the Browns logo there. There's some scratching going on. So this is definitely not a grade candidate. Not something that I would send in to be graded by any stretch of the imagination based off what I'm seeing there. Then another common problem, and this one here, so this is Odell Beckham. This is actually a super short print gold vinyl out of Prism. And originally I was super psyched about sending this in, but I want you to watch right up here as you get around his shoulder. And you see, there it is right there. You see that little indentation? And I barely caught that right before I sent it in. It's the only freaking problem on this card. That little indentation, it looks like a little fingernail indentation. I don't know if it happened during the break or if I did it sometime on accident while I was handling it. But overall, that's what stopped me from sending this in. Because again, I would have to qualify that as a crease. And I think it would just absolutely destroy the grade. So, you know, one thing that, you know, a lot of people don't pay, I don't think, as close of attention to these Chrome cards as they should. I'm going to focus back in. There we go. And then they get a little upset when they get bad surface grades. So you got to be really, really careful with these newer Chrome cards because there's lots of little defects that can happen. You know, so I mean, personally, I've had pretty good luck. You know, here's a Baker downtown that I sent in. You can see I got a 9.5 on surface. You know, I got some other mosaics that I sent in. This one got a 9. This one got a 9. This one got a 9.5. This one got a 9.5. You know, that one got a 9.5. So, I mean, if you take a good look at those cards, you make sure you don't have any of those dimples, any lines, any scratches, any like little impressions or creases, you know, that's always going to be good for your newer cards. You definitely want to take a look under good lighting. I found that the microscope does not work great on surface, and neither do scans. A lot of times I think it flattens it out a little bit too much, and you can't see that. To me, it's best to use, you know, an external lighting source, and just kind of like I did, you know, there, just kind of rotated it under to show you those different defects. Now I will show you some cards or some defects that are common on some older cards. So this here is a, let's get it to focus here. Sorry, I'm playing the focus game because I want to show you up close pictures. That's why it's so difficult. This one got a 6 on surface. And the reason that this one got a 6 on surface is there's quite significant wax staining going on the back. So a little bit more than what I would consider light wax stain. So if you go to their criteria, you know, it says pretty much that wax staining is allowed a little bit, you know, in that 6.5 range. And we ended up rating a 6. And then it's got minor wax staining on the front with a little bit more acceptable on the back. So I'm pretty sure that the reason this got the 6 was because you have all this wax staining going on down on the football and up here at the top. You also got a little bit of like dirt or something going on up here. And you can kind of see it scattered throughout the back of this card, you know, little tiny splotches and specks. So that's what caused this card to get a 6 on surface. Let's see here. Another good example. Here's another 6 on surface. A Lou Groza. And again, you can see there's some pretty significant wax staining going on. So right there, you've got quite a bit. You've got a little bit going on up here. So overall, this one ended up getting a 6 on surface. So again, kind of shows you that wax staining, they're pretty consistent with the wax staining. And then again on this one, here's a autogram that actually ended up getting a 3 on surface, which just killed this card. You look at 7.5, 8.8, and then a 3 on surface. And again, once you get down into the 3 range, it says 1 moderate crease or 2 light creases, scuffing and scratches, and original loss of gloss. So what I think ended up happening here is you obviously have some wax staining going on the back of it. And I don't think that, I think we could have still ended up getting a 6. But what ends up happening is this right here. And I don't know how well I can get you guys to see that. But that is actually like a puncture of some type. And I missed it when I was pre-grading it before I sent it in. Now, it does not pass through to the front. You can see, if you see like right in here, you can see that little bit of a indentation. And then on the flip side, you've got that little bit of a tear mark going on there. So I think that is ultimately what drove this down to a 3. So just a tiny little bad imperfection like that can drive this to a 3. That's why I'm thinking that mark down here in that Dante Lavelli is probably going to take it all the way down into that 4 or 5 range, because I've got a little bit of experience with that with this particular card. Another thing I've seen on vintage cards here, we got another one that got a 4.5, and this one's pretty obvious. You can see kind of running right across here, you've got this big nasty line. So that obviously was not helping the grade. And then on the back of this one, this is not the one I saw that had that, but you can see there's some dirty, dingy, and then you've got this crease right here. So see how that crease kind of goes across right there? Pretty significant. It's a very light crease, but it's pretty substantial in size, and that brought this all the way down to a 4.5. And then you've also got a little bit of something going on up here in the upper right corner. So, there's another good example. And then we've got this Marion Motley that ended up getting a 2.5 on the surface. And you can see there's all kinds of problems with this thing. I mean, this thing I just sent in because it was a Motley and it was the one I had. Lots of discoloration, lots of staining on the front. You've got a very comparable line running across there, just like you had on that last one I showed you. Some color loss and stuff going on down here. Some specks missing right in here. On the back, you can see you've got quite a bit of staining going on down here in this corner. Lots of, kind of dirtiness, a little bit of a crease going on right there. So overall, this is just not a really good condition card at all, which is why this got a 2.5 on surface. And then this last one I was going to show you, well, actually, I got a couple more here. This Dante Lavelli, you see here again, the surface grade killed it. 9.5 on centering, 8 on corners, 8.5 on edges, and then a 4.5 on surface. Now the reason for that, and I'm going to hopefully be able to show you this, because I noticed it before I sent it, but I wanted to see how much of an impact it would have, and it ended up being pretty significant. I think you can kind of see it right down here. It kind of runs right along through there, and that was enough to drag this down to that 4.5 range, again because of that light creasing. So again, that's why a part of why I think that Dante Lavelli that I have that I'm going to be sending in is probably going to end up in that 4 or 5 range as well. And then just, I guess, another real quick example. This is one I didn't get graded, but you can see here, if you look real close, you got a little bit of a crease going all the way through there, and then when you flip it over to the back, you can really see it. And then the other thing that I thought was super interesting about this particular card is I actually bought this in a BCCG 7, I want to say is what it was, which is kind of nuts to think about that it was in that bad a shape as a BCC 7. But they actually returned this to me for alteration. So they didn't grade it. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the microscope here, and you can kind of see what's going on. They circled it out on this corner that they felt like something might be going on there. So actually, I'll go ahead and go back to the screen for a minute. So here's what they actually sent back to me. So you can see it says evidence of alteration or restoration. and then it's marking the lower front corner. That's what they marked. So if I'm looking at that underneath the microscope, you can kind of see there's some funny stuff going on down there. I don't know if there's really evidence of alteration that I can see. I don't know if they thought maybe they were trying to cover something up, right in here, or that staining's going on, and maybe that's why it's not as significant. But they're definitely calling out this corner and saying there's a little bit of potential shenanigans going on down in that corner. This is leading them to believe there was some type of alterations going on. I don't know if they thought maybe something got trimmed off, but there's definitely some water damage going on. You can kind of see it, through there. Loss of gloss, lots of color. I don't know if they think maybe they tried to recolor some stuff going on there. I did look at this under a black light to see if I could find anything else out, and I didn't really notice anything, but I just thought it was worth showing this. And obviously big stains like that right there are going to cause some pretty significant hits from a grading perspective anyways. So that was one of the last things I wanted to show. And then one other thing I'm going to put in here really has nothing to do with surface, but I think it's important for newer collectors who are a little less familiar with vintage cars specifically to kind of have in their back pocket so they know some of the things to look for. So this here's a Marion Motley rookie card, right? Bowman Marion Motley 1950 rookie card. So I already had one of those that I showed you. So go ahead and bring this one in here. So this is a little trick I learned just through watching. So if you take these two cards and you put them side by side, look about the same, right? Flip them over. This one obviously looks a lot cleaner on the back than this one does. But that just could be age, right? Well, here's a telltale sign of a non-authentic card. So I'm just going to use this black light for lack of having a better option here. So if I take this card and I stick this light directly behind it, you can see how nothing shines through, right? The thickness of the card is blocking the light from shining through the card. If I take this card and I put the light behind it, the light shines right through it. The reason it does that is because this is not the proper stock. This is a fake. So I would say if you're ever on eBay or anywhere else, say you're out and about and you see something that looks a little too good to be true, that's a good test. I mean, you could even go as far as to, of course, the one time, I don't have my cell phone anywhere around me, but you could take the flashlight on your cell phone, hold it up to the back of the card, like I showed, even if it's in a case, it's still going to work and show that it's not, translucent. I could stick this card up here on the case and you can still see the light shining through that. So kind of a good way to maybe test cards when you're out there. Obviously this would not get graded. It would get sent back as, not authentic. But I thought that was worth sticking in this surface video just to kind of show people, a little bit of a trick on how to spot a fake card if you happen to be out and about and you're trying to evaluate, a card, maybe without all your tools available to you that you would normally have to look at these kind of things. So that's what I've got for surface, guys. Hopefully that helped. It's a little bit harder, when it comes to surface to try to show these types of things because it is such a difficult thing to show on camera. It's much easier to see when you're doing in person. But I hope I was able to show you lots of the different types of defects you need to look out for on not only vintage cards but newer cards. And like I said, unfortunately, this is going to be kind of a little bit of a trial by fire for us because I don't think either one of these is going to come back great. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and follow it through anyways. So the surface kind of killed us on both of these. This one with those print lines, which I'm super curious to see, how much that'll drag that grade down. Will it actually drag it down an 8.5? Will it drag it down worse? It doesn't specify really print lines in the criteria at all. But this is kind of part of the reason why I like doing this is, even though I don't think this card's going to get a fantastic grade, it's worth it to me for all the cards that I will be sending in to get graded to send this in and see just how much of an impact that has. Because other than that, the surface on this card looks clean. It's just those lines. So I think it will be a pretty good measure of how much they're going to dock surface for those types of lines on the back of the card specifically, just by sending this in and seeing what happens. And I can't get my camera to focus. So anyways, there you have it, guys. This is part 3, talking about surface. I got one more part left to go, and that'll be on edges. We'll get back into using the microscope probably quite a bit on that. And that one will be a little bit interesting as well, because the criteria for edges, I find, from CSG is probably the most open-ended and, I'll say, unclear of all the different categories that they grade upon. So it should be interesting to kind of walk through that with you and see if we can learn some stuff together. So thank you guys for watching. As always, if you like the content, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to check us out on Facebook, I'd appreciate it. You can go down to the Deviation Sports Cards on Facebook, and I'll also be posting some things up on YouTube for sale here in the near future. So if you're looking to buy some cards, you can go check those out at Deviation SCB is the username on eBay. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will talk to you next time.